Welcome everyone. Today we will be having one of the most theoretical presentations in this video as far as public administration is concerned. Remember, we are talking about theories, not much about any elaborations. The reasons that we are talking about is if you can understand the theory and you can always correlate with the few practices thereby. So, public administration is both an academic discipline and a field of practice, law perhaps. Public administration houses the implementation of government policies and the academic discipline that studies this implementation, that prepares the civil servants for this work. As a field of inquiry with diverse scope, its fundamental goal is to advance management and policy so that the government can function smoothly, effortlessly. Approaches to the study of public administration. Remember, I am going to go through these 6 approaches in detail in today's video. So even if you are not able to watch this video, remember to keep the audio in the full mode and keep your earplugs on. Understand what I say, and if possible, revisit that video again. Revisit those stanza again. Behavioral approach. There are 6 approaches: system approach, ecological approach, structural functional approach, public choice approach, and contingency approach. Remember, behavioral, system, ecological, structural, functional, public choice, and contingency is what we are looking out here. Approaches to the study of public administration. Let's say point number 2. In academia, the field of public administration consists of a number of subfields. Scholars have proposed a number of subsets of subfield. One of the proposed pillars of the 5 pillar uses the 5 pillar. We will talk one at a time. Human resource management is an in-house structure that ensures public services. Staffing is done in an unbiased, absolutely ethical fashion and a value-based manner. This function of HR systems are employee benefits, employee healthcare, compensation, and a host of other features. Similarly, organizational theories in public administration is the study of structures of government, entities, and many particulars inculcated in the fourth, ethics in public administration. The 5 pillars, of the 2 which I've already stated, the next 3 is ethics in public administration serves as a normative approach to decision making. Policy analysis serves as an empirical approach to decision making. Public budgeting is an activity within government that seeks to allocate scarce resources among unlimited demands. There are several organizations that are active. The Commonwealth Association of Public Administration and Management, CAPAM or SAPAM, the way you want to go around it. Again, the Commonwealth Association of Public Administration and Management. I have just mentioned the website also. It's capam.org. It's perhaps the most diverse, covering approximately 54 member states of Commonwealth from India to Nauru. Its biennial conferences brings together ministries of public affairs, services, top officials, and leading scholars in the field. The oldest international institute of administrative services is located in Europe, based in Brussels, Belgium. The IIAS is a worldwide platform providing space for exchanges that promotes knowledge, that promotes practices and improve organizations and operation of public administration to ensure that the people agencies will be in a position in a better way to respond to the current and the future expectation, the needs of the society. The IIAS, the International Institute of Administrative Services, has set 4 entities of International Association of Schools, Institute of Administrations, and the European Group of Public Administration thereby. The Latin American Group of Public Administration, LACPA, LAGPA, and the Asian Group of Public Application is ACPA, AGPA. IASIA is an association of organization and individual whose interest focuses only on the public administration and management. The activities of his member includes education, training, administrations, and managers. It is not only a worldwide scholar association in the field of management. EGPA, LAGPA, AGPA, and the regional sub-entities of IIAS. Also, the International Committee of US-based National Association of Schools and Public Affairs and Administration is NASPA, has developed a number of relationships around the world. They include sub-regional, national forum like CLAD, INPI, NESPC, APSA, ASPA, ASPA, the Center of Latin American Administration for Development, CLAD. I again repeat, Center for Latin American Administration and for Development, CLAD, based in Caracas, Venezuela. This regional network of schools of public administration set up by the government in Latin America is one of the oldest in the region. Allow me to recount all those six approaches that I stated. We start with the first one is the behavioral approach. Behavioral approach or behaviorism is an approach in political science which emerged way back in 1930s, approximately a century back. In United States, it represents sharp break from the previous political sciences. This is because it emphasizes on objective, quantified approach to explain and predict political behavior. It is associated with the behavioral science modeled after the natural sciences. This means that behavioralism tries to explain the behavior of unbiased, neutral point of view. Behavioral seeks to examine the behavior, action, and acts of individual rather than the characteristics of an institution, such as the legislature, executive, and judiciary. Groups in different social settings explain this behavior as it relates to a political system thereby. So, we are talking about behavioralistic using the strict methodology, empirical research to validate their study. This is what social science is all about it. The behavioral approach was very innovative because it changes the attitude of the purpose of inquiry. It moves towards a research that was supported by verifiable facts. During its rise in popularity in 1960s, 1970s, 50 years back from today, behavioral challenges the realistic and liberal approach, which the behavioral called traditionalism, and the other studies of political behavior that was not based on facts at all. To understand political behavior, behavioralism uses the following methods: sampling, interviewing, scoring, and scaling, and statistical analysis. Behaviorism studies how individuals behave in a particular group position realistically rather than what they should behave or how they should behave. For example, a study in US Congress says that might include consideration of how members of Congress behave in their position. The subject of interest is how Congress become an arena of action, the surrounding formal and informal spheres of power. The behavioral approach from the beginning, behavioralism was political, not a scientific concept. Moreover, since behavioralism is not a research tradition but a political movement, definition of behavioralism follows what behavioralistic wanted. Therefore, most introductions to the subject emphasizes value-free research. This is evidenced by Eastern eight intellectual foundation stones of behaviorism, as the case might be. We're talking about regularities, we're talking about commitment to verification, techniques, values, systemizations, pair science, and integration. What are we looking at for regularities? The generalization, understanding, or explanation of regularities. Commitment of verification is the ability to verify the generalization. Techniques is something where we need to experimental quantify techniques. Quantification comes the numbers expressed in numbers, possible, meaningful, gives some attributes, values, keeping ethical assessment and empirical explanation distinct. Systemization is considering the importance of theory and research. Pure science, deferring to the pure science rather than applied science. Integration is integration of social sciences and values thereby. What are we looking for? We are looking, as David Easton said, behaviorism sought to be analytical in orders, not substantious, not subjective, general rather than particular, explanatory rather than ethical. And this theory seeks to evaluate the political behavior without the any ethical evaluation. Roger Beheller cite this their insistence on distinguishing between facts and values. Allow me to quote those criticism. The approaches has come under fire from both conservationists and radicals for the purported value neutrality. Conservative sees this distinction between values and facts as a way of undermining the possibility of political philosophy. Neil Riemer believes behavioralism dismisses the task of ethical recommendation because behavioralistic believes truth or falsity in values. Democracy, equality, and freedom cannot be established scientifically and are beyond the scope of legitimate inquiry thereby. The second criticism is by Christian Bay belief behaviorism was pseudo-political science and does not represent genuine political research. They objected to the empirical consideration taking precedences over normative, moral examinations of politics. Behavioralism initially represented a movement away from naive empiricalism, but has been criticized as an approach, has been criticized for a naive skepticism. Additionally, radical critics believe that the separation of facts from the value makes empirical study of the politics impossible. Let us go to the system approach. System thinking is a process of understanding how things influence one another within the whole gamut of things. In nature, system thinking examples include ecosystem in which various elements such as air, water, movement, plants, animal work together in tandem to survive or to perish. An organization system consists of people, structure, process that work together to make an organization healthy, perhaps unhealthy. System thinking has been defined as an approach to problem solving by viewing problems as a part of an overall system rather than reacting to the specific part, outcomes, or event potentially contributing to the further development of unintended consequences. System thinking is not one thing but a set of habits or practices within a framework that is based on the belief that the component part of a system can be best understood in the context of relationship with one another, with other systems rather than in isolation. System thinking focuses on cyclical rather than on a linear cause and effect. As in a cause and effect, it is a cyclical order which goes on and on and on. The system approach in science system, it is argued that the only way to fulfill understanding why a problem or element occurs is and persists is to understand the parts in relation to the whole. Standing in contrast is Descartes' scientific reductionism. And philosophical analysis, it proposes a new view system in a holistic manner, consistent with system philosophy, system thinking, concern and understanding a system by examining the linkages and interactions between the elements that composes the entirety of the system. The approaches science thinks attempts to attempt the events that are separated by distance, by time, and that small catalytic event can cause a large change in the complex system. Acknowledging that an improvement in one area of a system can adversely affect another area of the system, it promotes organizational communication at all levels in order to avoid the silo effect. System thinking techniques may be used to study any kind of system, be it natural, be it scientific, engineered, human, or conceptual. Thus, there are several ways to think about and define the system. What are we looking into? A system is a subpart of a different units altogether. A system is encapsulated, has boundaries. The boundary of system is a decision made by the observers or a group of observers. A system can be nested inside a system within a system. A system is a system. You are with your family. The family is a part of a society. The society is a part of a community, and so on and so forth. The system can overlap one another. Definitely, yes, a system is bounded in time. A system is bounded in space through the parts that are not necessarily co-located. A system receives inputs from and sends output into the wider environmental practices. A system consists of processes that transform inputs into outputs. What are we looking into it? We are talking about system thinkers consider that a system is a dynamic, complex, whole, interacting and structural functional unit as the case might be. Energy, material, information flow among different elements that compose the system. A system is a community situated within an environment. It's an energy, it's a material, it's an information flow from and to the surrounding environment via semi-permeable membranes or boundaries. Systems are often composed of entities seeking equilibrium but can exhibit oscillating, chaotic, exponential behaviors. We are talking about the system approach, which tries to think about differently about interdependence of the objects and the attributes. Independent elements can never constitute a system. Holism, emergent properties, not possible to detect by analysis, as the case might be, should be possibly defined by holistic approach. Goal seeking, systematic interactions must be result in one or final goal. Input and output in a closed system are determined once and constant. In an open system, additional inputs are emitted from the environment. So let me go give you the system approaches, the transformation of inputs into output. This is a process by which goals are obtained. Entropy, the amount of disorder, randomness present in any system. Entropy, it gets warmer, hotter, it is emitting energy. Regulating, the method of feedback is necessary for the system to operate predictably. Hierarchy, complex wholes are made up of small subsystems. Differentiation, specialized units perform specialized function. Definitely yes. Equifinality, alternative ways of attaining the same object, or convergence, if I may say so. Multifinality, attaining alternative objectives to the same input as in the divergences are concerned. Let me come to the next approach as ecological approach. The ecological model of competition is reassessment of the nature of competition in the economy. Traditional economic models of economies and the principle of physics, forces, equilibrium, inertia, momentum, and the linear relationship. This can be seen in economic lexicon. Terms like labor forces, market equilibrium, capital flows, price elasticity. This is probably due to the historical coincidence. Classical Newtonian physics was the first state of art in science, but Adam Smith was formulating the first principle of economics in 18th century. According to the ecological model, it is more appropriate to model the economy on biology, growth, change, death, evolution, survival of the fittest, complex interrelationships, non-linear relationships. Business operate in a complex environment with interlinked set of determinants. Companies co-involve. They influence or are influenced by competitors, customers, government, investors, supplier, union, distributor, banks, and every other entities. We should look into the business environment as a business ecosystem that sustains and threatens the firm. A company that is not well matched to its environment, how do you go across with it? Companies that are able to develop successful business model and turn a core competency into a sustainable competitive advantage will thrive, will grow. Very successful firms become to dominate their industry, referred as category killers. We come to the ecological economics in refer to the transdisciplinary and interdisciplinary field of academic research that aims to address the interdependence of co-evolutions of human economics and natural ecosystem over time and space. It is distinguished from environmental economics, which is a mainstream of economic analysis of the environment, by its treatment of the economy as a subsystem of our ecosystem and its emphasis upon preserving natural capital. One survey of German economists found that ecological and environmental economics are different. School of economic thought, with ecological economists emphasizing strong sustainability and rejecting the proposition that natural capital can be substituted by human-made capital. We come to the ecological economics was founded by the modern movement in the functions and interactions between various European and American academics. Sees the section of the history and the development below as such. The related field of green economics is in general much more politically applied form of the subject thereby. Mainstream economics has attempted to become value-free hard science, but ecological economists argue that value-free economics is generally not realistic. Ecological economics is more willing to entertain alternative concepts of utility, efficiency, cost benefit, such as positional analysis or multi-criteria analysis. Ecological economics is typically viewed as an economics for sustainable development and may have goals similar to that of green politics. We are talking about ecological economics, indistinguishable from neoclassical economics, primarily by its assertions the economy is embedded with an environmental system. Ecology deals with energy, matter, transactions of life and the earth. The human economy is by definition contained within a system. Ecological economics argue that neoclassical economics has ignored the environment, at best considering it as a subset of human economy. The ecological economics challenges the concepts, the conventional approach, may I say so, towards natural resources, claiming that it is undervalues natural capital by considering it as an interchangeable with human capital. I am talking about technology, I'm talking about labor. Neoclassical economics tends to maintain the man-made capital can in principle replace all type of natural capital. This is known as weak sustainability view. Essentially, that every technology can be improved upon. Essentially, it can be replaced by innovation, and there is a substitute for any and all scarce material. Another extreme example is a strong sustainability view argued by the stock of natural resources and ecological functions are irreplaceable. From the premises of strong sustainability, it follows that economics field has a fiduciary responsibility to the greater ecological world, and that sustainable development must therefore be taken into different approach to valuing natural resources and ecological function thereby. We are coming to the fifth aspect of the structural functional approach. Structural functionalism, or simply let's say call as functionalism, is a framework of building theory that sees society as a complex system whose parts work together to promote solidarity and stability. This approach looks at society through a macro level orientation, which is broad focused on the social structure that shapes society as a whole. This approach looks at both social structures and social function. Functionalism addresses society as a whole in terms of function of its constituent elements, namely norms, custom, tradition, and institution. Let me tell the common analogy popularized by Herbert Spencer presents these parts of society as organs that work towards the proper functioning of the body as a whole. In most basic term, it simply emphasizes the effort to impute as rigorously as possible to each features, custom, or practices it affects on the functioning of the supposedly stable cohesive system. For Talcott Parsons, structural functionalism came to describe particular stages in methodological development of social science rather than the specific schools of thought. The structural functionalism approach is a micro sociological analysis with a broad focus on the social structure that shapes society as a whole. Classical functional theories are defined by the tendency toward biological analogy and notions of social evolutions. Functionalist thoughts from Comte onwards has looked particularly towards biology as a science providing the closest and the most compatible model for social science. Biology has taken to provide a guide to conceptualize the structures and the functions of social system and to analyze the process of evolution via mechanism of adaptation. Functionalism strongly emphasizes the preeminence of social world over an individual part. We talk about the structural function approach as far as Durkheim, who follows Comte, believes that the society constitutes a separate level of reality, distinct from biological and inorganic matter. Explanation of social phenomena has therefore been constructed within this level. Individual being merely a transient occupant of comparatively stable social roles. The central concerns of structural functionalism is a continuation of Durkheim Stark's task of explaining apparent stability and internal cohesion needed by society to endure over a period of time. So societies are seen as coherent, bounded, fundamentally relational, construct that functions like organizations with their various parts or social institutions working together in an unconscious, quasi-automatic fashion toward achieving a overall social equilibrium. All social structural phenomena are therefore seen as functional in the sense of working together and are effectively deemed to be have lives of their own. They are primarily analyzed in terms of their function. The individual is a significant not in of himself, but rather than the terms of the state around here. His position in patterns of social relations and behaviors associated with the status. Therefore, the social structure is the network of statues connected to the associated role altogether. We are talking about Auguste Comte, the father of positivism, pointed out the need for to keep society unified as many traditions are diminishing. He was the first person to coin the term sociology. Auguste Comte suggested that sociology is a product of three-stage development: theological stage, metaphysical stage, and the scientific stage, if I may say so. Theological state, from the beginning of the human history until the end of the European Middle Age, people took religious views and society expressed God's will. In theological state, human mind seeks essential nature of being, the first and the final cause, the origin and the purpose of all effect. In short, absolute knowledge supposes all phenomena to be produced by immediate action of supernatural beings. Metaphysical stage, people began to see society as a natural system as opposed to a supernatural system. Began with the Enlightenment and the ideas of Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau, reflecting the failings of selfish human nature rather than the perfection of the God. Scientific stage describes the society through application of scientific approach, which draws on to the work of the scientists. Thereby, we have the functional approach. Herbert Spencer, 1820 to 1903, a British philosopher famous for applying the theory of natural selection to society. He was in many ways the first true sociological functionalist. Spencer concluded the society is constantly facing selection pressure, internal and external, the force it adapts its internal structure through differentiation. Every solution, however, causes a new set of selection pressure that threaten the society's viability. It should be noted that Spencer was not deterministic in the sense that he never said selection pressures will be felt in time to change them. They will be felt to react it to. The solution will always work. He was in many ways a political socialist and recognized that the degree of centralization and concentrated authority in a given polity could make or break its ability to adapt. In other words, he saw general trends towards centralization of power as a leading stagnation and ultimately pressures to decentralize. Spencer recognized three functional needs or prerequisites that produce selection pressures. They are regulatory, they are operative, and they are distributed. He argued that all society needs to solve problem of control, coordination, production of goods, services, ideas, and finally find a way of distributing this three approach. We come to the public choice approach altogether. Public choice is a theory of modern economic tools to study the problem that are traditionally with the province of political science. From the perspective of political science, it is a subset of positive political theories. The model voters, the politician, the bureaucrat are mainly self-interested. It studies the agents, their interaction with the social system, either as such or under alternative constitutional rules. These can be represented in a particular number of ways, including the standard, constraint, utility, maximization game theory, or the decision theory. Public choices analyst has a roots in positive analysis. What is often a normative purposes. What ought to be to identify the problems or suggest how a system can be improved or by changes unconstitutional rules. Public choice theory is what we are talking about in social choice theory, which uses mathematical tool to study voting and voters. Much early works have aspects of both, and both uses the tools of economics and game theory. Since voter behavior influences the behavior of the public official, public choices theory often uses a result from social choice theory. We are talking about the prior emergence of the public choice theory. Many economists tend to consider the state as an agent outside the scope of economic theory, whose action depends on the different consideration than those of driving the economic changes. The many other economists who did not place the state and its agents within such theory include Wilfredo Pareto. The public choice theory attempts to look at government from a perspective of bureaucrats, from that of politicians who compose them and makes the assumption that they are based on budget maximizing model in a self-interested way for the purpose of growing their own power, own influences. The theory aims to apply economic analysis, usually decision theory and game theory, to political decision-making process in order to reveal certain systematic trends toward the inefficiencies of the government policies. We are talking about the public choice theory is often used to explain how political decision making results in outcome that conflicts with the preferences of the general public. For example, many advocacy groups and poke barrel projects are not desire of the overall democracy. However, it makes sense for the politician to support this project. It may make them feel powerful and important. It can also benefit them financially by opening the doors to a future wealth as lobbyists. The project may be of interest to the political local constituency, increasing district votes or campaign contribution thereby. We are talking about one way to organize the subject matter studied by public choice theories is to begin with the foundation of the state itself. According to this procedure, the most fundamental subject is the origin of the government. Although some work has been done in anarchy, autocracy, revolutions, and even the war, the bulk of the study in this area has been concerned fundamental problem of collecting, choosing constitutional rules. This work assumes the group individual whose aim to form a government. Then it focuses on the problem of hiring the agents required to carry out the government functions as agreed upon it. Another major functions of the is the study of bureaucracy. The usual model depicts the top bureaucrat has been chosen by the chief executive and the legislature, depending on whether the democratic system is presidential or parliamentary. The typical image of a bureau chief is a person on a fixed salary who is concerned with pleasing those who appointed them. The latter have a power to hire, to fire them, more or less at will. The bulk of the bureaucrat, however, are civil servants whose jobs pay are protected by a civil service system against the major changes by their appointed bureau chief. This image is often compared with that of the business owner whose profit varies with the success of production and sales, who aim to maximize profit and who can, in an ideal system, hire and fire employees at will. We'll talk about the last contingency approaches altogether. The contingency approach, also known as the situational approach, is the concept in the management category stating that there is no one universal applicable set of things, principles which manages the organization. What are we looking into it? Organization individually different, face different situation and require different ways of managing. Contingency approaches remain less common than the change management approaches. Contingency approaches evolved in late 1960s. Management theories and research began to adopt a new orientation that embodied simple concept and enabling significant advancement in the study of management and organization, now referred as contingency approach. It emphasizes the importance of situational influences on the management of the organization and the questions the existing of the single best ways to manage and organize. Today, the contingency approach dominates theories and researches in the management literature. Contingency approach challenges the classical process and the model designed by the management theories such as Frederick Taylor and Henry Fayol. The conceptual approaches of the contingency approach was developed by Kieser and Kubik. According to the model, the formal structure of the organization defines the role of the member in a specific way and thereby directs their behavior to a certain degree. The performance of the organization depends on the degree to which these roles define enables members to cope up with the requirement, resulting in the context of the organization. While classical management theories such as Taylor's and Fayol were looking for the best ways in management and organization design in late 50s and early 60s, a shift in paradigm arose, claiming that the organizational structures of a company or an administration has to fit to a situation in which it finds itself. As the situation varies, different structures turn out to be more effective. In other words, the optimal organizational structure is contingent, depending upon the certain contextual factor. Therefore, this approach is called contingency approach. In German, the context is situation. The approach is called situational approaches. Different researcher focuses on different contextual and investigate their influences in empirical study. Joan Woodward, 1958, look into the production technology. Blouse, in 1971, into the size of the organization. Burns and Stocker, 1961, as well as Lawrence and Losh, 1967, into the economic development environment, in particular of the market competition and the technological changes. A broad approach was developed by British team of researchers in the University of Aston for by developing the conceptual skills altogether. This is what it took account into several contextual factors, which has been mentioned in 1963 by Pugh and Hickson thereby. Now we are talking about the approaches in survey of more than 30 organizations, 7 contextual variables such as size, technology, geographical dispersion, as well as 5 dimensions of organization in terms of structure, specialization, centralization, decision making, standardization, formalization, configuration were operational by more than 80 indicators. Statistical analysis was directed towards identifying correlation, which were found, for example, between the size of the organization, the degree of specialization, and formalization, as predicted by Max Weber. Later, John Child joined the Aston team and added variable describing the role of structure, the behavior of an organization member, and the performance of the organization, which are considered to be relevant criteria for judging fit between structure and the context thereby. The Aston Research Program was adopted in studies in more than top 10 countries. The whole research is summarized in 4 volumes by Pugh Hickson in 1976, Pugh Hickins in 1976, Pugh and Pine in 1977, and Hickson and Macmillan in 1981. Kieser and Kubik summarized the related research in German textbook in 1976 using the following conceptual model. According to this model, the formal structure of the organization defines the role of a member in a specific way, thereby directs the behavior by a certain degree. The performance of the organization depends on the degree of fit with which the roles defines, enables member to cope up with requirement, resulting in the context. For example, there's a strong competition, a high degree of technological changes, decisions about a new product and marketing strategy that has to be changed frequently and taken close to the market. We're talking about the market to analyze, assess this kind of relationships in the comparative quantitative Analysis is the most advanced stage, a multi-level quantitative analysis assigning data to the level of context of the organization and its member. These variables are operationalized in quarantine quantitative indicators. Data are collected by standardized questionnaire distributed to several members of the organization under investigation, afterward aggregated to different indices. For the empirical studies conducted according to this model could identify some of the interesting relations, but did not show much of a correlation clear-cut patterns. The introduction of additions variable did not increase the level of correlation. The fit of the organizational structure with this context depends on too many aspects, seems to be complex thereby and precisely captured. We are talking about the basic ideas. We are talking about the situational contingencies of a particular object on this context, as well as an idea of performance of an institution depends on the fit between its properties and its relevant context. It is still valid in a form of a great heuristic value, and it suggests the critical examination of too early generalization and for situational differentiation. We are talking about the analytical approaches. We are talking about can be found in different areas of management theories too, in terms of technology, in terms of social shaping. For example, Menz and Skinberg in comparative studies of introduction to a video text in United Kingdom, France and Germany use a conceptual framework according to which the final decision of the technical system and its institutions arrangement was influenced by the different constellations of actors in each country, which acted in a different context defined by their respective legal system, political system, market structures, and different technological pools. Cubic and Wisdom use a contingency model of deployment of e-democracy tool in their scenarios of the future use of its kind of it tools. The map of the social technical research landscape employed to map different subject and research in the demo net, which is based on the contingency approach. With this, I come to an end of this video. Thank you for watching this video till the end.